Well, hello everyone. This is Ryan.
And this is Kyle.
And you're listening to the Doctor's Watcher podcast.
The Atlantis podcast about every episode of Doctor Who.
I mean, of all the people and shows that might visit Atlantis, Doctor Who is definitely my number one choice.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there must be other shows that have been to Atlantis, but... Oh, hi, kitty. What do you think, Matilda?
Yeah, she would know. I'm trying to think, because Star Trek would be my number two choice. But I don't think they've actually... Did they touch on Atlantis ever?
Not that I can remember at all.
Huh, yeah, same. Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's stuff like SeaQuest and whatnot, but I never really watched that, so I couldn't say for sure.
Right. That was the cartoon, right? SeaQuest DSV or something like that?
I think so, yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, it was pretty funny from what I remember, but yeah, it's been quite some time since I've seen that.
Nice.
Nice. Well, have you been up to anything interesting since we spoke last?
Yeah, actually, I briefly mentioned this in our previous episode, but I thought I would talk a bit more about it, which was that I had some friends over to do some gaming last weekend. We actually played, so maybe like a year or so ago, Lego released a D&D set that has like an inn and like a tower and a dragon and like, you know, this whole little scene. And they actually like wrote a one shot to go with it, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I had built it like some time ago and had been wanting to run it for a while, and actually did run it last weekend, and it was a ton of fun. You know, it comes with like 4 pre-made characters, basically. There's, what was it, an orc rogue, an elf wizard, a gnome fighter, and a dwarf cleric.
Cool.
And
those are some definitely varied and 2025 or 2024 flavored characters.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's this whole little adventure about like, you know, an inn that has famous hot wings, and the adventurers show up at the inn and really want to try the hot wings. But of course, once they're at the inn, you know, things are not as they seem. You know, the famous proprietor of the inn, Alex Jade Scales, is not there. There's another person there instead who says that he bought the inn from Jade Scales, and yeah, so they have to sort of figure out what's going on. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. The set itself is like pretty detailed, and the adventure guide, like, you know, has something for everything in the set. So it was pretty fun to like build a scene and then like go and read about that scene in the adventure guide and be like, oh, cool, that's what that was and stuff.
Nice. That's rad.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I don't remember if I've mentioned this on the pod before or not, but I know that you know that one of our cousins is a designer for Lego. He works on the Star Wars team, so I don't think he had any involvement with this set. But his partner, as far as I understand, works for a graphic design company that Lego contracts with a lot. And she's actually responsible for like half of the illustrations in the adventure guide that they published for it.
That is super cool.
Yeah, totally.
Like, they both have jobs that are very high on the list of, you know, jobs to be jealous about. Like, number 1, playing with Legos all day and inventing things to build. Number 2, drawing D&D stuff. Like, okay.
Yeah, totally.
Both of those sound great.
Yeah, I will say our cousin is on the Star Wars team as far as I currently know. However, there are rumors that Lego is working on Star Trek stuff at the moment.
Oh.
I guess that, like, the license to do, brick-based Star Trek building toys has long been held by some other company that I don't remember. But, all the sort of Lego rumors sites on the internet and on Reddit and whatever, they all say that company has lost the license, and everyone thinks that Lego is making like a big Enterprise D that will be coming out like the day after Thanksgiving this year, basically. So I know our cousin's a big Star Trek fan himself, so I'm kind of hoping that he's on that team. I'm sure if he is, that he very much can't tell us about it because of NDAs and shit, but
right. But yeah, if there's any job that's even more perfect for him than Star Wars Legos, it would be Star Trek Legos.
Yeah, totally.
Jeez. Lucky bastard. That's so cool. Uh-huh. Man, a big Enterprise D set would be incredible too.
Yeah, totally. It would be like instant purchase for me.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Have you been up to anything interesting?
Yeah. Other than the book I'm reading, I've actually kind of been somewhat shunning video games. I have to admit I did break down a little bit and play the Beam NG update because they added a lot to their rally mode.
Oh, nice.
And it's awesome. And also I got a new controller because my last one sort of broke. And I, kind of like they both happened at the same time. So it was like a really good way to test out the new controller. Uh-huh. But I have been trying to shun video games a little bit because I want to make some more music.
Oh, right.
And one of my buddies sent me this old industrial music track that I hadn't thought about in a while. But it's a song that I have loved for a very long time. If you're unfamiliar, you should check it out, but it's called, the band is called Pop Will Eat Itself. And the song is called Ich bin ein Ausländer.
Nice.
And it's from 1994, but it rings very, very true now. 30 years later, kind of all about like, people being afraid of foreigners and politics being stupid and people being racist and yada yada. And, condemning all of that, obviously.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that unfortunately seems to be kind of an evergreen topic.
Yeah, right? I mean, humans, we're real pieces of shit, aren't we?
Uh-huh.
But anyway, this song is awesome. And so who knows if, it'll ever get published. I'm not super sure on like the legalities of all that. I think as long as you credit the original songwriters, you can publish it. But anyway, I'm working on a cover of that song.
Oh, nice.
And like it's a little bit kind of groovier so far than their version. Like it's got a bit more like swing to it. Maybe it's a little bit more like laid back where they're kind of more aggressive, 1994 industrial style. But yeah, so that's been fun. Yeah, not too much other than that. Working the usual stuff.
Right on. Cool. Well, speaking of the usual stuff, shall we get to the usual stuff of our podcast?
Let's do it. So, Do we have a episode title for this one?
Just the Underwater Menace episode 2.
All right. And how did you watch it?
So this episode actually exists.
Oh.
Yeah, it was apparently recovered in 2011. Ralph Montague was head of heritage at Radio Times at the time, and I guess he was a lifelong Doctor Who fan. I, kind of went into the Wayback Machine on the internet and like found some articles from the time it was actually recovered. That's how I got all this information. So he was a lifelong Doctor Who fan, and he apparently sometimes went to basically a meetup for film collectors and retired TV engineers. And at one of these meetups, Doctor Who happened to get mentioned in passing, and this other dude at the meetup, Terry Burnett, was like, oh, actually, I think I've got an old episode. And that episode actually turned out to be part 3 of Galaxy 4, which was the serial way back at the start of season 3. But then a few weeks later, he showed up to the meetup with the Underwater Menace episode 2. As so I guess he was a film collector, and he just got these like from another film collector. As far as I could tell, it is unknown. Their provenance is like unknown before that, basically. But what most likely happened is that they were sent to Australia to be aired by ABC, and then got returned to the BBC, and then probably just got like thrown out and then unofficially rescued from the dumpster by, either a collector or a fan or whatever.
Wow. That's incredibly lucky, if so.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, thanks to Ralph, thanks to Terry, and thanks to unknown collector or collectors before Terry.
Right. And possibly a dumpster diver. Excellent. So let's see. Last episode, we left off with Polly facing a very large needle and the possibility of being, in her words, turned into a fish person.
Indeed. And this episode is going to leave that dangling off the cliff for just a minute, because we start up with Zaroff explaining to the Doctor basically what's the deal with Atlantis.
And so you see, my friend, it is all so simple. When Atlantis was submerged at the time of the flood, sunlight continued in air pockets in the mountain's caves, thanks to the natural air shaft provided by the extinct volcano.
Lucky. Okay. I'm trying to picture how that would work, because like, would they have gone down the volcano during a flood? Or like, would they have been, I don't know, maybe they explain it.
It seems like they would have had to, I guess, but yeah, this is like the only explanation we get, basically.
All right.
The Doctor, meanwhile, as Zaroff explains this, the Doctor has sort of, grabbed a pair of wire cutters and, kind of secretly, and he's sort of like backed up to a wall panel, kind of holding the wire cutters behind him. So, as if he's going to secretly cut some wires in this panel.
Are there wires like sticking out of the panel, or is it?
Yeah, there's like a little bit of wiring going on, not a whole lot, but there's some.
Okay.
Meanwhile, over in the operating room, Polly is struggling to get away, but she's like strapped down to the table basically, and they've got the needle of anesthetic. They're sort of ready to inject her, but, kind of waving it around and not quite injecting her yet because of plot and script reasons.
Right.
And the lights flicker. So the main surgeon is like, fuck, we can't do this with like flickery lights. So he goes off to complain to Zaroff, and Polly is spared from getting knocked out quite yet. The main surgeon enters Zaroff's lab or whatever as Zaroff is feeding his pet octopus.
Awesome. Was there like actually an octopus in the show?
I think we just kind of see like the top of the tank that the octopus is in, but we don't really see what's in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's like, through dialogue that we learn, basically. The surgeon is like, dude, you're using too much power on your fucking project. And so like the rest of Atlantis or the colony or whatever is not getting enough power. And like, I've got important work to do and shit. So like, what's the deal? Zaroff is like, that's bullshit. And he goes over to the electrical panel and like shows the surgeon some wiring there. And he's like, look, you've got this direct line. You should have an adequate supply. Like, what's your problem, dude? And the two of them kind of start arguing with each other. And this provides enough of a distraction for the doctor to kind of wander over to the electrical panel and just kind of like unplug something.
Convenient.
Back in the operating room, the lights just like fully go out. Not even, flickering anymore. They're just like fully off. And so the two nurses that the surgeon left, they each go off to look for lights and fuses and shit. And they tell the servant girl, Ara, to keep watch over Polly. Of course, as soon as the two nurses are both out of the room, Ara unstraps Polly from the operating table and leads her out.
Nice. Ara's really coming in handy these past few episodes.
Yeah, totally. After the surgeon leaves Zaroff's lab, the doctor starts talking to Zaroff about his plans. Of course, at the end of the previous episode, Zaroff told the doctor that he told the Atlanteans, at least, that he's going to raise Atlantis out of the sea. So now the doctor's like, dude, what's up with that? That is a very large mass to lift, like up out of the sea. You can't do that. And Zaroff's like, yeah, you're right, I can't. So that's why I'm going to lower the sea level instead.
Oh, that'll be so much easier. Good job. Nice thinking, Zaroff.
Yeah.
That's only like, magnitudes more like weight and material, but okay.
Well, see, all he has to do for this is just make a drain in the ocean.
So it just like drains to what, the hollow center of the earth, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, the doctor is like,
Forgive me, I'm a little lost. The crust of the earth is more than 100 miles thick. Below that is believed to be a white-hot molten core. Now, where is your ocean going to go?
Zaroff says that there's kind of like a fissure nearby where the distance is reduced to less than 15 miles. So still a challenge, but they've been working on it for many years, and like they're about to break through basically.
Nice. Okay. Whatever, Zaroff. Good sciencing, I guess.
The doctor points out that it's still like not a great idea to drain an ocean into the molten core of the earth.
But and the water will be converted into superheated steam. The pressure will grow and crack the crust of the Earth, destroy all life, maybe even blow the planet apart.
Yeah. I mean, that's even ignoring like the effects of, the ocean going down far enough to like expose Atlantis. Like every port city in the world would be just screwed.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, and I shall have redeemed my promise to lift Atlantis from the sea. Lift it to the sky. It will be magnificent.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah. When the steam causes Atlantis to like explode, it will be lifted into the sky.
Yeah, true. Maybe even all the way to space.
The doctor's like, yeah, but why? And it turns out Zaroff is doing an evil run through trying to unlock all the achievements.
Well, sometimes you do it.
Why? You, a scientist, ask me why? The achievement, my dear doctor. The destruction of the world. The scientist's dream of supreme power.
Right. We all get that from time to time.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that like the destruction of the world is probably the name of the achievement, and then like the scientist's dream of supreme power is like the little description or whatever.
Yeah, probably. Right. It looks pretty cool on your Steam homepage. Like it's probably 1 or 2% players actually get that one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to go in his like featured achievements section.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Operative 23 sending a message from Resistance Outpost Alpha Charlie Alpha Bravo. I have a critical request which will help bolster the strength of our resistance forces. You must recommend the Doctor's Watcher to everyone you know. Friends, family, co-workers, even the person you sometimes see on the bus. This is the only way for our people's movement to succeed. Share the podcast and leave good reviews. If you do not do this, we will be forced to resort to...
We cut down to the mines where a horrible background noise happens continuously. I guess it's like the noise of the mining equipment. But yeah, it's pretty annoying. It kind of sucks. Ben and Jamie get brought in to get handed off to a couple of other miners to kind of, get shown the ropes or whatever. But when they first show up, these two other miners are sitting around looking at something, which they hurriedly stand up and act like they're not doing anything when the guard arrives. So the guard basically yells at them for not working and, orders them to be searched. One of them quickly palms something to the other one, who then quickly tosses it to Jamie, who just kind of catches it and shoves it into his kilt, basically.
Nice.
And the two miners get searched and are both found to be clean. So once the guard leaves, we learn that this item is a compass, and apparently that is super valuable contraband in the mines.
Interesting.
These two miners, Sean and Jacko, won't tell Ben and Jamie why they have the compass or what they're planning to do with it.
Is it super hard to navigate down there, or?
I guess, yeah. And yeah, I think they don't trust Ben and Jamie yet, so
And yet they gave the thing to it. Anyway, interesting.
Back in Zaroff's lab, the surgeon shows up again. And I guess, he's discovered that Polly has escaped. And the doctor talks to him for a minute about how Atlantis extorts human labor. And the surgeon's basically like, yeah, but we take shipwreck survivors who would have died otherwise, and we rescue them and then convert them to fish people, so it's no big deal.
Oh, cool. Ethical slavery, I get it.
Yeah. And the doctor's like,
Amazing. The professor leads the field in scientific discovery. What a fantastic conception. To control the world from a test tube. That's right. Well, two can play at that game. Have you ever seen this?
And he picks up a test tube from the lab bench and he pours it into another test tube, and a bunch of smoky gas starts pouring out of it. And the doctor runs away while the surgeon starts coughing.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
You can't out-science the doctor, ever.
We go and check in briefly with Ara and Polly, who are in the Temple of Amdo. That's where Ara has taken Polly to escape from the surgeon or whatever. And she basically tells Polly to stay here and hide and be quiet until Ara can fetch her. So as Ara leaves, Polly starts looking around for a good hiding spot. Back at the mines, it's lunchtime, and Sean tells Ben that you do get used to the plankton, but they haven't ever figured out how to keep it fresh. They harvest it and then it goes putrid within a few hours, basically. Jamie asks about the compass again, and Sean reveals that he and Jacko are planning on escaping because they recently found an entrance to an unused underground tunnel. Just then, the foreman shows up to basically recruit some workers to go work on, a side project or whatever, some other project that needs more workers. And so they're all like, hey, this is our chance to escape, because if we leave now, then the folks here will just think we went to the extra side project. And then there's this whole little 30-second farce of the foreman choosing workers for the extra project, and Ben and Jamie both volunteer for it, but they both get turned down because they're too new. And meanwhile, Sean and Jacko get chosen for it, and one by one they slip off down the side tunnel, and so then Ben and Jamie kind of stand in for them, and then they slip off. And so, yeah, it's this whole little farce, but the end result is that Ben and Jamie and Sean and Jacko all manage to slip off down the side tunnel that they discovered and get away.
Nice.
The doctor is doing some skulking and hiding around Atlantis, and he finds Ara. He asks her to take him to their chief of state, but before she can do this, they hear voices approaching, so they both hide, and it turns out it's the surgeon and the high priest. They're talking about how the two young men are at the mines, but the girl and the doctor are still both at large. The doctor asks Ara to get rid of the surgeon so he can talk to the priest alone. So Ara comes out of hiding and tells the surgeon that she thinks that she saw the girl that he's talking about, and basically leads him away out of the room. And then the doctor comes out of hiding, and the priest is like, oh shit, you're the dude, and is about to like start calling out. But the doctor's like, no, chill out. Wait a sec, we're on the same side, which is the anti-Zaroff side.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
We're both on the same side, Ramo. You distrust Zaroff out of instinct. I distrust him because I know the truth.
Why should I trust you?
That's a very good question. I wish I could think of a good answer.
But he does make a very persuasive roll on the dice, and the GM allows it. Priest is like, yeah, maybe I do trust you or whatever.
Nice.
And offers to take him somewhere where they can talk privately. The location that the priest has in mind is the Temple of Amdo. Polly stays in her hiding place as the doctor gets a jug of water and seals it closed and places it on a fire in order to give the priest a material demonstration of what will happen when Zaroff drains the ocean into the center of the earth.
This is child's play. What has this to do with Zara's project?
But this pot is Zara's project, watch. Well, the pot begins to boil. But the steam can't get out, and so I think we'd better stand a little further back. Get down!
And the pot explodes.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. I will say that, like, it certainly looked like the pot exploded from a small amount of explosives in it rather than steam and boiling the water, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah, nice. Well, it's always good, to have an educational show teaching kids how to blow shit up.
Yeah, totally.
Nice job, Doctor Who. Thanks for that.
The priest is completely convinced by this demonstration. All the doctor has to do is like show the principle of steam causing something to explode. And the priest is like, oh yeah, I fully believe you that is exactly what Zaroff's going to do. So he asks the doctor if the doctor could convince the ruler of Atlantis. And the doctor's like, that's up to the dice and the GM, but I can certainly try. So the priest tells him to wait here for a minute and heads off, and the doctor starts playing his recorder as he waits.
Nice.
Meanwhile, our escaping the mine sub-party has come to a fork in the path. So they're going to split into two sub parties who will each go 50 paces up one of the tunnels and then return, back to this meeting point so they can decide which of the two paths they're going to follow.
Makes sense, but 50 paces seems kind of short, but all right, whatever.
Yeah, you'd think you might want to check a little bit farther, but before Sean and Ben even get to their 50 paces, they're at about 40 paces. Jacko shows up in their path saying that Jamie went on while he came back to collect them. He doesn't say why or anything, just, I guess they decided to do something different.
Okay.
Sean tells Ben that, he thinks the best thing to do is for Ben to go with Jacko back to Jamie, while Sean continues to finish exploring this tunnel, and then he'll meet them back at the fork in 10 minutes. So Okay, still no idea why any of this is happening, but cool.
Yeah, weird. Going with it.
Uh-huh. We very soon, in the very next scene, find out that Jamie has become a cliff dangler.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Ben and Jacko head down the other path, and they find Jamie clinging to the side of the cliff several feet below the path. But between the two of them, they're able to reach down and, like, you know, Ben and Jacko each get one of Jamie's arms, and they're able to pull him back up onto the ledge.
Nice. It's always fun to get a cliff dangler before even the end of the episode.
So, and now I'm guessing that, like, Jamie must have fallen, and then Jacko went to get Sean and Ben to, like, help him save Jamie, but he could have fucking said something.
Right. Like, dude, we need to hurry because Jamie's just, like, dangling.
But yeah, like, they literally asked him where Jamie was, and he's like, oh yeah, he went on.
He went on down the side of the cliff. Forgot to mention that part.
We cut back to Polly in the Temple of Amdo. She, you know, has kind of come out of her hiding spot and is looking around a little bit, but she quickly hides again because a hidden door in the back of the temple starts opening, and through this hidden door comes our party of escaped miners.
Nice.
Blimey, look where we are. Back at the temple.
So Polly comes out of her hiding spot, and they have a whole little reunion, but none of them know what the doctor is up to. I guess when the doctor was in the temple, like just a few scenes ago, the transcript that I usually follow along with kind of suggested that Polly was asleep. That was not really clear from the episode itself, but I guess it explains, like, how she doesn't know what the doctor's up to now.
Yeah. Like, seems like someone was like, wait a second. If she was in there and he was in there, why is she saying she doesn't know now? Shit. Okay, go back and suggest she's asleep. Okay, yeah, good call.
Yeah. Yeah, so Polly was totally asleep during that earlier scene. And now nobody knows what the doctor is up to, but we, the viewers, get to find out because we cut to the priest giving the doctor some priest robes, basically. And he tells the doctor that if he's wearing them, no one can question him. And the doctor's, like, pretty excited about getting a new costume, essentially. He puts these robes on, like, over his regular clothing, and the priest takes him to meet with Thaus, the ruler of Atlantis.
Thaus. Okay, cool.
The doctor takes kind of an interesting tack when he speaks with Thaus. He starts off talking about how amazing and wonderful Zaroff is. Thaus is like, yeah, he's totally cool. But then the doctor's like,
Have you noticed his eyes lately?
No?
When he talks of his project, have you noticed his eyes? They light up like this.
Does he, like, make a face?
yeah, basically.
Nice.
Thaus is like, yeah, so what? And the doctor says that it means that he's mad as a hatter.
Awesome.
And the priest interjects. He's like, I think that what the doctor is trying to say is that Zaroff is going to destroy Atlantis and split the world in two. And Thaus is like, yeah, you just fucking hate Zaroff. Like, you've said shit like this before. And the priest is like, yeah, but he proved it to me. Which, I don't think the Doctor really did, but whatever.
Right. Okay. Kinda, but not really.
Uh-huh.
He proved he can do cool science experiments with explosions.
Thaus is like, cool, leave me and I'll consider your arguments. The Doctor's like, we're just getting started. And Thaus is like, nah, I've heard enough.
Nice.
Back in the temple, Ara has brought a bunch of food for Sean and Jacko and Ben and Jamie and Polly. They ask her why she's helping them, which, good question.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like,
You were kind to me, and I hate Zara.
Hate Zara?
We are not all his slaves. You will find out one day.
Nice.
yeah, totally. She says that she can take them to the Doctor later. 'Cause she actually, knows what's going on and stuff. But then they hear people approaching, so everyone other than Ara heads into the hidden chamber behind the Amdo statue.
Aren't you coming with us, Zara? No, I must stay here. I'll be missed.
Back in the council chamber, Thaus summons the priest and the Doctor, and he tells them that he has made a decision. He stands up and he points behind them as he says,
There is your answer.
and the Doctor and the priest both turn around to see Zaroff and his guards entering the room as Thaus tells Zaroff,
Do with them what you will.
Oh.
and with that, music plays and the words say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Oh, snap. Well, that's pretty exciting. I like all the kind of sneaking around and intrigue and like high persuasion rolls with shitty persuasion tactics that have been happening.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's always entertaining when like the player rolls really well on persuasion but can't actually like think of a good thing to say.
Right. Right. Like usually, in game when that happens to me, it's like, yeah, so my character like says this whole big story about blah, blah, blah. And like, it's very convincing. You can kind of just brush past it,
Uh-huh.
but you can't do that on TV.
Yeah,
Doctor
totally.
Who does brush past a lot of shit, but sometimes it's like, why didn't you guys brush past that part? Like,
It's like, yeah, we could have just like not said that, or yeah.
right. Or like, take 5 minutes to come up with something actually convincing.
Uh-huh.
But cool, that's part of its charm. I like that they're just like, fuck it, we're going with it.
Yeah, totally.
Well, awesome. That's very entertaining. This is shaping up to be a pretty good serial so far. I think maybe I like this one. I mean, so we're only 2 episodes in, but I think maybe I like this one slightly more than the last one, which, was still good, but I kind of like the Atlantis concept.
Yeah, it's pretty fun so far.
Yeah. Well, nice. Any further notes on this episode?
Yeah, I did want to mention that we broke a missing episode streak with this episode.
Oh, yeah.
The previous 12 episodes before this one were all missing. And
Wow.
Apparently that is the longest single run of missing episodes in all of Doctor Who.
Oh, snap.
So, yeah, it goes all the way back to the 10th Planet, episode 4, which means that this is actually your first non-missing episode, and it's our first non-missing Patrick Troughton episode.
Nice. Yeah, that's very exciting. It was kind of surprising and different to hear that, like, we actually had, you can actually watch this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally.
Well, that's pretty fun. No spoilers, but now I'm very curious, if the next one's going to be missing or any of the rest of the serial, or if they're all missing again, like we're back to missing episodes, or what's going to happen. So that's kind of like a cliff dangler in and of itself.
Yeah, totally. And of course, like any hint of a missing episode means it's not on BritBox, but we already had the first episode of the serial missing. So like the rest of the serial could conceivably be missing or existing, and we wouldn't know in advance.
Right. It's like a Schrodinger's rest of the serial type situation.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, thanks for telling me about episode 2 of the Atlantis serial.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Atlantis serial.
And thanks to the listeners for hearing us get deep on this serial. Deep underwater, that is.
Indeed. Deep enough to wake up in a compression chamber.
Right. To experience the bends without actually probably, having the conditions in which it could occur. Because it's pretty, I guess, like, I didn't want to get into it back then, but I'm pretty sure that that's related to I think it's like nitrogen that they blend in with your scuba tank air.
I think so, yeah.
And then the bends occurs when you're rising because nitrogen will form bubbles in your blood, but you have to have breathed it in already.
Right. And yeah, it's like specifically going from a high pressure environment with nitrogen to a relatively lower pressure environment.
Right.
So
not just walking down some caves.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. You can't be right all the time, I guess. Even if you are an educational show.
If it's the reverse bends, is it like the straights?
Yeah. Boy, that would sure. That's a disease that I'd never want to catch. What's next? The squares? God.
Nice.
Well, cool. I can't wait for, in 2 weeks when we get to undangle both of these cliff danglers, the is it missing and what happens to the doctor now that the ruler kind of went against him.
Yeah, totally.
Well, listeners, don't forget to email us or hit us up on Blue Sky, which now that I've said that, I've gone blank on which one is which as far as the situation.
The email is the.
Right, because Blue Sky is just Doctor's Watcher.
Yeah, and I think that is probably also in the show notes.
So, and also on every other episode.
Indeed. And as on every other episode, tell your friends all about this amazing and wonderful Doctor Who podcast that you listen to.
Yeah. If you have any friends that are, into the ocean or into Atlantis, this might be, a good one to pull them in on.
Indeed. And if you have friends who aren't into the ocean or Atlantis, then do it just to prank them.
Yeah, like don't tell them what it's about, actually. Just be like, it's about science fiction.
They definitely are like a space-oriented show and not ocean at all.
Ever. Never the ocean.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, cool. Anything else?
Just that if you would like to stop dangling off both of these cliffs, come back in 2 weeks.
Indeed. Can't wait for that to happen. All right, well, I guess I will see you then, Kyle.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
He says that he's going to raise Atlantis, yes? That's not quite true. He intends to destroy Atlantis.
A difficult task.
It's easier than raising it.
How will he destroy us?
He intends to drill a hole through the Earth's crust and drain away the ocean, yes?
Yes.
Have you any idea what will happen if he does that? I'll show you. Oh, may I? Now, this pot is the Earth. This is the ocean. The ocean drains into the Earth. Now, but the center of the Earth is hot, far hotter than this fire. So what happens?
But this is child's play. What has this to do with Zara's project?
But this pot is Zara's project, watch. Now the pot begins to boil. But the steam can't get out, and so I think we better stand a little further back. Get down!